Don't you dare, ref. That's, he got the ball. Yes, good afternoon, Tottenham fans. Welcome back to the channel, the Irish Hotspur, with your boys Dave, Jack, and we have Soren and Martin here with us today. Good to see Martin return with us as we build up to an absolute massive day at Tottenham Hotspur, especially since West Ham drawing last night against Man City, pulling themselves out of the relegation zone. Nottingham Forest are at home to Fulham. That does kick off at 2 o'clock, so we'll keep you updated with any scores going on in that game. And we could very well enter our game today inside the relegation zone. Fingers crossed, hope we do not, but it is a massive day for Tottenham Hotspur, and it doesn't help that we've only got about 12, 13 fit players today ahead of kickoff in terms of senior options to pick from. So the team more or less picks itself, I suppose, today. But we will have a discussion around individuals within that and stuff like that. But most importantly, aside football, happy Mother's Day out there to everybody's mother who is tuning in, and happy Mother's Day, most importantly, to my great mother who has raised this great legend. So happy Mother's Day to you, Ma, and hopefully you're going to have a great day. Of course, I did have to go over there yesterday and spoil you yesterday because today, unfortunately, Spurs are playing, and anyone that says I don't support the team, well, I'm here today. Where are you? Anyway, we'll welcome some people in and we'll crack on. We've got Brandon in the house. Good to see you, my man. This will be a fun game to watch. Expect nothing. But Dave and Jack always bring the entertainment. Best pre-game out there. Very, very kind words of you, Brandon. Look, it's not just myself and Jack. It's also these boys in here who make themselves available for a great discussion as well. Limpy Down Under says, I fear the worst tonight. I really have nothing to be excited about. We look awful. We're playing awful. The mood is dreary. We're littered with injuries. And the hangman's noose looms. Some would say it would be Spursy to turn up today and get something. What do you say about that, Limpy? Let me know. Well, I know Soren's already off. AK Shake says, Jack, or just as we were being accused of throwing the City game to stop Arsenal from winning the league, honestly think Crystal Palace and Fulham fans want their own teams to lose today. Dropkick Your Teacher says, remember, be rational, not deluded today. Mark New says, big up Dave and Jack. Away at Anfield without Mickey Van de Ven or Ron Bomulus, it's a mountain to climb. Will the players turn up? If Tudor gives the kids the final 15 minutes, at least they will fight for the shirt. Fair point, my man, fair point. Big up 4N7G. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. It says happy Mother's Day to you, Dave. Look. We've also got Mark and Pork in the house. Great name. Big up, lads. Good to see you, Mark. We've got Uphill Gardner. Unless Spurs let 13 goals in, they won't be in the bottom three. Fair. Well, I think points-wise, a first win. Maybe I'll have to check the ramifications of that. Kulu Sexy Football, good to see you. I mean, when is our man going to return? You know, I was anticipating his return ahead of the Christmas period, and we're still waiting for him to return. It's getting annoying. We badly need him. So big up panel and fellow long-suffering Spurs fans. Good to see you. Del Boy, big up Dave and Jack and guests. Come on, you Spurs. We also have, I'm just going to call him Ice in the house. How are we going to concede this time? Well, hopefully no slips. Hopefully people know how to pick out the right studs ahead of today's game. Roy Marsh says we are... F off. We've also got Steve P in the house. The 5 stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, and depression and acceptance. We're all in depression at least, right? I'm at acceptance. I think many people are starting to come around to acceptance, to be brutally honest. And Root Toot says, big up all. At least we know Tudor is going after this match. Or do we? I would argue, I think if we lose today, I think we have to roll the dice again. Personally, you know, that'd be what, 4, 5, 6 games then without a victory. You know, I've conceded, 14 goals already, let alone probably what's going to happen today and stuff like that. So, you know, I'd argue if we don't get something today, I think we might actually have to roll the dice again, to be brutally honest. You can't just sit here and accept it. You have to do everything you can. The transfer window's closed, so there's nothing we can do there. Can't bring players back off loan, nothing we can do there. So the only other thing you can try at that time is roll the dice again. We've got Mike.
Careful with the name.
Mike in the house says, have the Dr. 730 as a guest. Who's that? Anyone know?
Maybe it's a Dr. Tottenham reference. I'm not too sure.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I don't even know if a Dr. Tottenham exists in this manner, because we lose to literally everyone. You know, the doctor sees every patient in the Premier League and is happy to take them in and give them points. But to be fair, Liverpool have also given up a lot of points to some bad teams this season. True. Some people have even labeled this, I'm not too sure if I would go this far, but some people have labeled this as a bit of an El Sakiko game, actually, for Arne Slot as well as Igor Tudor. I'm not too sure if that's the case with Slot. Granted, though, Liverpool fans aren't happy with him.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming for Mike here that it's a Dr. Tottenham reference. I could be wrong.
Fair enough, but you won't catch me with that name. You can keep trying all stream, get creative, but I'm not sure you're going to catch me on that today. We also have Drew Zilli in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well, Drewski. Good to see you. Your brother's missing you here. I mean, there is a resemblance when you look at the two pictures, especially since Soren's actually shaved his head as well. It's even more of a resemblance now today. Big up, Drewski. Good to see you in the building. How you holding up, my man? Hopefully you're keeping well, lad. Good to see you. We've also got Simon Coley in the house. Oi, lads and all. Good to see you. Then we have Wild Talk Ireland says, I'm expecting a big reaction today and a positive result. I hope you're right, my man. And then we have Suit Measured says, big up, Dave and Jack and lads. Let's keep it tight for the first half, please. Lol. Well, look, I'm not sure that's in this guy's nature, to be brutally honest with you, about keeping it tight. He wants to go for the games, from minute one, which I don't mind, but it just doesn't seem there seems to be any sort of plan about going about the game, to be brutally honest with you. A DYTI says it's okay. There's a rustic and bucolic romanticism to the championship, a bit like the Europa League. Look, if we end up down there, I'm not going to be happy about. I'm not even sure I can celebrate a victory down there, to be brutally honest. I'll turn up for every game. I'm not going to go overboard when we win, because I'm still going to believe we should be a Premier League team, and that's the standard. So I don't know how I'm going to cope in the championship, to be brutally honest. I'll just take it as it comes, to be honest. But look, let's get straight into it. Let's start getting people involved. Jack, Spurs travel to Anfield today, a ground where we historically struggle. We have not won a game at Anfield in 15 years in the Premier League. We are sitting 16th in the league table, just 1 point above the relegation zone. We've just hit a club record 6 straight defeats in all competitions. Given Spurs have conceded 17 goals in their last 4 visits to Liverpool, can we get anything from Anfield today? Is this the worst possible place to try and break this streak, or could a result here be the ultimate turning point to our relegation scrap?
I wonder if the recent results of some of these other clubs that we're battling with, Forest, Leeds, West Ham, they all show signs of life. They all show signs that they are actually trying their very hardest to survive. I wonder if that is starting to get to the players. I mean, you would imagine they're all well aware of the fact that these other teams are showing a lot more recent and better form than Spurs are at the minute. I mean, what could one more Liverpool loss really do? I mean, when you sort of read out those stats there, it's just like insanity, really, just to think that Spurs have gone that long without any sort of result against them. We've had some decent games against them in the past, but we've also had some absolute tankings as well going over to their place. Granted, I mean, that's probably because Liverpool, for the most part, in the last 4 or 5 years, have been one of the very best teams in the Premier League. They've usually been finishing around first, second, or third, and have a good manager with good quality players. And most of the time when we go over to their place, it seems like we face them at not a great opportune time. This is probably another case example where it's not really a great time to be facing Liverpool, and they seem to take advantage of that nearly every time. They almost smell the blood in the water, or see the blood in the water, whatever the phrase is. But Dave, I don't know. I mean, it's not like really going into this game we could be in any worse form. We could be any worse of a situation. It really can't be much worse than this. I guess all we have to do is just find out once again, whether Spurs prove us right or wrong when it comes to our expectations going into this game. I'm not sure if I can even try to be that optimistic. All I can cling on to is Spurs tend to be a bag of surprises, and you never know. Maybe this could be a game where they just randomly show up, and then the game that we need them to show up against, in the case of Nottingham Forest, maybe they don't show up in that one. But yeah, Dave, it's not easy reading, and this Liverpool team maybe are slightly weaker, or at least maybe not as confident as some of the teams that we've taken absolute spankings from in the past. Maybe that's the only bit of happy clapping positivity I can paint out for you here.
Yeah, 100%. Look, they're not the Liverpool of Jurgen Klopp era. They are a Liverpool
even last
team
year
that do have their off day. Let's be brutally honest about it. And look, I think given the way a lot of our players have turned up to games this season, they haven't turned up with the stomach or the fight. As soon as the goings got tough, they've absolutely tapped out rather than the tough get going. But, look, everything's against us today. All the records, all the injuries, everyone's expecting us to take an absolute tonking here today. Everyone's afraid, of what's going to happen. And, I just wonder, could Tudor maybe use that as a galvanizing effect today in terms of, bringing everybody together? Like, look, this is the reality of the situation. And I think he tried that in his pre-match press conference, sort of going, look, we can cry about it or we can fight. And I just wonder, is he going to can he use that today to really sort of motivate these players and go out and stick it to the rest of the world? It'd be very, very interesting. But if I was the manager today, that's exactly the way I would actually bring all of them into all them stats and everything else into the dressing room, the amount of missing players, and try and use that to galvanize the team ahead of today's game. Big up, Dermo. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Also, Shemi Tam is in the house as well. Good to see you, Scott Spur, as well. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. Tartan Spurs, Nicholas Walker's coming in here as well. And also Colin. Big up, Colin, as well. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. It's this afternoon, gentlemen. Expecting the worst, hoping the best. Come on, you Spurs. I think that's all of us today, Colin, to be brutally honest with you. And Queen Ellie as well. Good to see you. Hello, lads. You all look so happy. We have so much to be happy about. No, I know, Ellie. It's just
trying our best, Ellie. Put on brave faces.
Yeah, brave faces, and hopefully you've been absolutely spoiled today, Ellie.
Yeah.
Because I know your daughters are very, very fond of you, by the way. So hopefully they've spoiled you.
I was going to say, Dave, yeah, happy Mother's Day to your mother, and happy Mother's Day to the cruel mother that is Tottenham Hotspur today, I guess.
Don't forget your own mother, by the way.
Mine's in 2 months. Mine's in 2 months. The Americans celebrate it on a different day, at a much better time of year, in my opinion. Not in the miserable rainy spring. Nice early stages of May is when we celebrate it. So not for a while now.
Oh, so Mother's Day isn't the same day around the world for everybody. Look, you learn something new every day, isn't it? Every day is a school day, as they say. Sorry, let's bring you in, buddy. I mean, is it Mother's Day in the UK? I'm not quite so sure now. But look, 6 losses in a row, 16th in the table, a trip to a ground where we never win. Why have you turned up today? Is there a part of you that maybe thinks the Spursy thing to do is for this broken team to somehow win when nobody expects it?
Look, we're going to pick up 3 points today. I'm absolutely positive. And it'll be on the way home. The bus is going that fast. The police are going to pull us up. 3 points for speeding. So,
could be a 6-pointer if we're rushing on the way back.
It could be, yeah. 3 points for every bald tire on the bus, which is probably most of them. So we're going to be safe. Where do you start? The only optimism I've got for today, and it's a tough one, is if we can hang in there right to the sort of 80th minute. Liverpool have been conceding late goals of recent. That they're defending for some reason at the end of matches just goes astray. And if we can be anywhere near them at the end of the game, and we can pick up we've got to score a goal. That would be a first for a long time, but. You've got to look at it. Look, we haven't won a bloody game in 2026. It's got to come at some point. Got to come at some point. We can't go from January till the end of the season without winning a game, surely. And look, how typical of Tottenham Hotspur would it be to go to a team like Liverpool and pick up 3 points?
You said the same during the week, though. You did say the same ahead of the Atletico game.
You know what, though? It's funny because, the beginning of the game, you sort of watched it, but for a few slips and things like that, we were all right. We weren't doing too bad, but it was just. If somebody had said they're going to score 2 goals because Kinski's going to slip or miskick a ball, you wouldn't really have believed it. If you'd have said virtually every one of our players was going to fall over but yet the opposition hardly do. It was one of those games. But look, second half we weren't too bad. I'm going to say we're not out of it yet, but we've still got a game. We're still in the Champions League.
We still have to hope, though, don't we? We at the end of the day, despite realism, we still have to try and hold some hope.
Yeah, look, it's one of those. I say it week in, week out. I'm not going to sit here and say I expect my team to lose. Deep down, I might do, but I support my team and try to support them in the best way I can. And if that's delusional and think that we can pick up 3 points, I still think we can pick up 3 points. I don't know how. Probably virtually impossible. We probably just need the referee to come into our huddle and see how depressed we are, and he might give us something back. But I was reading. Is he right? We haven't even had a penalty this year, or this season. how do we keep going season in, season out, and virtually get no penalties or anything? It just doesn't add up.
I was saying that to an Arsenal fan, actually. That's a friend of mine, where, that dive they had against Leverkusen in the Champions League. And I was like, I can't believe how many decisions you guys have been given this year. And he goes like, come on, man, you see those terrible calls given every week. And I was like, we haven't had a penalty for 2 seasons at this point. Like, no, we don't get those decisions every week.
We don't get them.
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous. But look, at this stage, it's still 0-0. We're still in the game. There's optimism. If we can hold on, then there's every chance we can nick a goal. The odds are against us. We know that. I think the only saving grace, but then again, it's like me. I think me and Jack were just talking about it. If we lose today, then hopefully we get a new manager, but we probably won't be in Tottenham. I just find it very hard to come up with positives other than in my little dreamy world, we can still pick up 3 points today, and that's all I can hang on to. It might be delusional. I might be made to look like a muppet again by the end of the game, but I'm gonna hold on. I'm not gonna let the side down, and I'm gonna say we're gonna pick up 3 points today, and it still hasn't sunk in that we will be relegated. So at this point, we're still safe.
No, look, I think it's important that, every game is an opportunity to turn it around. Sometimes when you're in this predicament, all you need is just that one result that can sort of pick you up and get you going again, re-energize you and stuff. And look, despite everything telling us we are going down, I think you still got to try and hold on to some optimism, between now and the end of the season, that we can turn it around. So fair play to you, Sarah. Fair play to you. It's tough when you look around, a lot of the Spurs community socials and stuff like that. There's not a lot of hope left. So fair play to you for still having some. I actually admire that, to be fair. Let's bring in Martin Meow Flower. Let's hear what he has to say. We're just going to start getting into the nitty-gritty of shit now. Martin, Igor Tudor had this to say on Tottenham's situation ahead of the game today when he was asked about it. He said, it's been tough for sure, not just because of the last game, but also the period. It's not an easy situation or moment. It's a big challenge to change things. Like everything in life, you can choose how you see the situation. You can cry or you can fight. You can be the victim or you can change something. This is the message I want to communicate to the players. The bottle is either half full or half empty. Here, there is nothing full. There are a lot of empty things, but difficult moments don't last. It will pass, and I believe the players will take this as a challenge and an opportunity. We stand up with the courage to change things. After this period, they will become better people and better players. Are those words a rallying cry, or a manager is completely out of touch with maybe the reality of a relegation scrap? Because some would argue on that point that you don't need a guy that's going to confront things the way he does. You need a guy that's sort of going to tell the players how great they look, tell them how good they're feeling and stuff like that. Basically a pillow fluffer.
Yeah, well, I think that's more his way of where they've been over in Juventus. They are, your Conte, they are that bit more ruthless, where, as Roy Keane says, the big crybabies, they seem to be crying. They seem to be in victims. They seem to be half empty, not half full, and he's seeing that. And is he trying to do the reverse psychology thing where we see it as they need, Harry Redknapp come in and tell them they're $1 million, this, that, and the other. If he feels this is his way to do it, then he's going to back himself on it. Do I think it's the right thing? No. Has he tried that for the last few weeks? Yes. Has he seen anything? No. We're in free fall, and this is not on him. He has come in as the firefighter, as they called him, and he's got the track record of the firefighter. But what everyone forgot to look at was, this is the Premier League. He doesn't know the players. He doesn't know. He might watch it from afar, like we can watch the Italian league or La Liga. But unless you live and breathe it every day, you don't know it. You can all see it's the toughest league in the world, blah, blah, blah. I think the reality after one game, his first game, and he come in and his press conference was like, you could see then he was like, no, this is a different kettle of fish here. I don't know what the players need, but I don't think who you bring in, what changes the hierarchy you want to do upstairs, this, that, and the other. This is past everything now. This is entirely in the players' hands. If they're up for the fight and they want to stay up and they want to keep this club up and they don't want that R on their CV, then it's down to them. It ain't about tactics. It ain't about nothing. It is about putting 110% in and giving it your best. And if you give it your best, you can sleep at night and say, we tried. But at the minute, I don't think none of us can sit here and say they're trying at their best. You know, we're not talking about quality of the players or injuries to the players. There should be enough fight in some of them, and I'm not seeing it. You know, we've all come on and, you know, said about the young players we're buying that, but Archie Gray is the only one who's showing me out there that he looks like he really cares. Like the Van der Ven and things like that, they just look checked out. You know, that rash challenge against Athletic, you know, he should have gone for that. You know, it's just their head's not in the game, and there's the worrying signs. So Tudor's trying what to do this, you know, big thing, get the players G'd up and stick a rocket up their arse, however you want to call it. But if it works today, then we'll all go great. He's had a few weeks at it, but at the minute, I'm not seeing it, and I haven't got much faith in it.
Yeah, and like, look, fair play to Tudor. You know, don't get me wrong. I think he's already sort of alluded to. You know, we'll get onto it in a while. I think, you know, for a while now he's been trying to sack himself, but you know, he is still trying to show a little bit of fight on that front. Whether he believes in the players in the squad to be able to, you know, get themselves out of it is another thing. But you know,
he's trying. He's trying.
Look, I think it's certainly a rallying call, to be brutally honest with you. But I just think with some of the other stuff he's done, like basically coming out saying the players can't attack, can't defend, can't run.
Yeah.
I question how much of them actually want to fight for him or behind him. And the thing is, like, we can all sit here and say, because look, the reality is, I'm with you. I actually don't, even if we roll the dice again, I don't really think it really matters at this point. I think it genuinely is on the players to sort of galvanize themselves, pull them together and get us out of this. I do think that the club's fate is resting on the players, because you can bring in managers, but at the end of the day, if these players aren't up for it, there's only so much a manager can do at the end of the day. But like, I think he's already lost the dressing room. I think this is maybe the sort of rallying cry he needed to come in with at the very beginning. In terms of that, look, we're not going to cry about the situation, blah, 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 blah. You know, we're not going to be the victim. This is what we're going to do. But I think it's too late. I think, you know, maybe he's trying the galvanizing approach after he's already alienated himself from the dressing room. You've seen reports come out this week basically saying that half of the camp are up for the fight, other half of the camp aren't. There's already been a player or two in the dressing room expressing that they don't care about the scrap because they've already instructed their agent to get them move this summer and that they're on the way out of here. So, you know, it really doesn't matter what the manager says or that, but I just think it really is on all these players. But I mean, guys, like, let's have a discussion around this. Do we see a squad that is ready to fight for him, or even just for themselves, for the football club and us fans in general? Or are we seeing a group that has already sort of mentally checked out?
It looks like they've mentally checked out, to be perfectly honest. Like, they've had so many opportunities at this point to at least show the fight or the desire. I feel like the last two managers, Igor Tudor and Thomas Frank, absolutely are taking a huge part in putting us in this position. We've been tactically outclassed. Lineups have been terrible. You know, in-game management has been awful at times as well. But we should still not be in a relegation fight.
Yeah.
Like, we should probably be dwindling around 13th, 14th, something around that. Like, basically, we're probably the likes of Palace and some of these other teams are, like, in the Premier League, where we have nothing to play for. We're pretty much on the beach, and we're kind of just looking at the season kind of just petering out. But I think the players have probably at this point taken all of the bad work from the last two managers in Tudor and Frank and have made it even worse and even more difficult to survive, because they don't seem to have any real, I don't know, grasp or any real understanding of the gravity of the situation. Like, they don't seem to care or understand that what this could mean for this club if they get relegated, what it could even mean for their own careers if they get relegated, who's to know. And then also what could easily be the case is that they just simply don't care about this football club. They don't simply care about what it would mean to this fan base if we were to get relegated. I'm starting to really accept that these guys have checked out. They don't really have any real signs of life in them. And unfortunately, that's down to guys that you would expect to show that fight and that maybe determination. And I think that includes, unfortunately, the guys that I really like and the guys that I had a lot of respect for, the Mickey Van de Vens, the Romeros, Jed Spence's, a whole host of players in this team. I mean, I think the list just goes on and on and on, really. I think the only players that maybe you could say could be an exception are maybe some of the really young players in the team, like the Archie Grays, maybe the SARS or whatnot in this team. But I'll be honest, Dave, I think a lot of these players seem pretty checked out and are pretty resigned to the fact that they're probably going to be pushing for moves this summer if we do, in fact, get relegated. They don't seem to have any real belief in themselves. They don't seem to have belief in each other. That's also a big issue, right? Is that maybe you're not playing well. Maybe things aren't going well for you form-wise, but then you should at least, believe and at least have some sort of fight for your fellow man, your fellow teammate. And they don't seem to have that either. They're kind of just throwing their arms up, Eric Dyer, Ben Davies style, pushing on the blame onto others, don't seem to be communicating with each other. We really, truly do seem to have no leaders right now. Like when you think about some of the players, and maybe the last thing I'll say is some of the players in these other relegation battle teams, you would actually point out that there are some guys in that club that either really care about the club or are maybe those de facto type leaders. Gibbs White, let's say, for Forest, or maybe in the case of Leeds, they have, I think, a few guys that have been there in that club for a while now that know what it means to play for Leeds and know what it means to represent that badge for them and that atmosphere that they have. And then in West Ham's case, Jared Bowen probably would hate for him to go down with how long he's been at that club. There are a few guys in that West Ham team that have been there for a while now that maybe aren't good enough for where they want to be, but at least understand the gravity of what it could mean to go down. I don't think we seem to have that, at Spurs. I don't think there's a single player in the leadership group that people look up to in the squad. I think everybody that people look up to in the squad, I think they've all given up, and that's probably then poisoned the rest of the dressing room, really.
Well, I was going to say, I think you look at the likes of West Ham and some of their more experienced players in the dressing room that are, they have a vital impact on the football pitch, but also in terms of galvanizing that squad, bringing them together and fighting for one cause. And that's what you see with West Ham. Even yesterday against Man City, how many players are putting their body on the line, to block shots, keep the ball out of the net. Do we see our players do that? We don't. And, I think someone said here today, and look, it's something I've been hearing for quite some time now. It's not a good thing that the younger guys are the only ones showing fight. It means that they're the guys that are up for this fight because they realize that they won't get out of here in the summer. A lot of them will be held to their contract, and they prefer to be playing Premier League football next season. Whereas when you look at a lot of the players that we should be looking up to, a lot of our captains, our leaders, the senior players, they all seem to be checked out. They're all making mad, stupid decisions and all. It's not like it's an Archie Gray that's made a mistake that's led to a goal that's cost us. It's literally our best players. They're the ones that are letting us down. They're the ones that are making stupid, silly mistakes. You don't even see a lot of commitment from them. It sprints, with intensity. You don't really see any of that. You don't see them flying around, flying back and forth to try and affect games and stuff like that. And that's where I become real concerned that it's only your younger players in the dressing room that are trying to fight this. And that's a huge concern for me. Then you look in terms of leadership. Well, Mickey Van de Ven and Romero are taking their turns in terms of getting sent off. One comes back, the other one goes missing then for a couple of games because of suspension, like Mickey Van de Ven today, like Romero previously. It's an absolute disaster. So you've got no leadership. You've got no one in that dressing room that people are looking up to. You also then go, okay, well then where's is there any common denominator with it, for them to fight for? Okay, well, you can't tell them to go and fight for the owners because they don't respect the owners. They hate the owners. Romero's had to beg to get private jets back for the players ahead of North London derbies just so that we can be available. Yet he's watching all these other teammates, and it's the same with all other Spurs teammates to go away on international duty previously. All their players have been picked up, getting back, making sure that they're in the best possible shape to get out and represent their club on the weekend. While our guys are having to wait around for their jets that their international teams are putting on because we're too cheap to pay for it, because we don't see the benefits of doing it in terms of trying to win on the weekend. We would rather just cut corners rather than give the players the care they need. How many players have left this club in terms of going outside of the club for treatment just to get back fit or just to get back for regular injuries that we see other people treated at their clubs for. You know, the player care within this club is absolutely shocking. Then we were absolutely milled coming into the winter. They're looking at the board then. Go and bring in some players to help us in this situation. We know where we are. We are struggling right now. Bring in players to help alleviate this situation, help improve it. They don't. So the board have let them down at every opportunity. You've got owners who haven't a clue what they're doing. You've got Vinay and Johan Lang who are so indecisive. They let Thomas Frank and that saga go on for way too long, and completely until the players' morale and confidence were on the floor, or left it way too late in the season to really try and, you know, allow a manager to come in here and really sort of affect change and kick on. So they're indecisive. Then they're also then putting everything on the manager. The manager's then walking in here, putting everything on the players. And then the players are going, hang on, it's not our fault. Look right back upstairs. So the shit is being pushed down. And then when it gets down to the very bottom, it's being pushed back up. There is not one person in this football club that is standing up and taking accountability of the situation. No. There's not one person in this football club that says, guys, in order for us to get out of this, we all need to come together. Absolutely everybody. I wonder, have they pulled everyone inside that club into a big meeting? Tea lady, chef, everybody. Guys, we all need to be on the same page here moving forward so that because if we get relegated, a lot of them people inside the club are going to lose their jobs, you know, and stuff like that. That's the unforeseen effect that people don't see, let alone us losing our best players. There's going to be people in there where their livelihood is going to be lost, you know, because of this and stuff like that. But I don't think we have that one figure in the club that is going to pull everybody together to fight on a common cause to really get us out of this and get everyone pulling in the same way. You have no one showing leadership right now. Everyone's playing a deflect game, and no one wants to take responsibility for where we are. You listen to Bowen coming out after the City game, you know, the galvanizing speech. We're well aware of where we are. Yes, we keep an eye on other results, but at the end of the day, we focus on what we can do to affect it. We can't wait on results. Right now at Spurs, we feel like we're waiting on results rather than us taking responsibility on ourselves and going and try and pull ourselves out of this. Us showing the stomach, us showing the fight. We are in deep, 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 deep trouble. And we really need someone to sort of realize where we are and grab a hold of this very, very quickly, because if we don't, we will go down without a whimper. You cannot keep relying on other teams to lose every week. You know, we're sitting here going, yeah, but look at the other teams. We have the worst form in the Premier League. I think we've won, 2 of our last, 21, 22 Premier League games? I mean, come on here. You know, this is nowhere near good enough, and it's just a worry that this squad is so fractured right now that you've got half pulling their weight and half not. And people can go, oh, but what's the issue with that? The reality is, if the manager keeps playing some of the half that aren't pulling their weight, what they won't do on the football pitch, you know, in terms of sacrifice, is what's going to cost you games at the end of the day. You need everyone pulling their weight out on that football pitch, and we don't have that, and we are in big, big trouble, and I am scared right now. Starring, anything you want to add?
Yeah. So I agree with everything you said there, Dave. You know, I don't think there's anything any of us can disagree with. But
like within the squad, Soren, do you see a Harry Kane type figure, a Son type figure? You know, someone that actually really cares about this football club, the people in and around it, the affection from the fans, and pull people together to galvanize that dressing room? I don't. We've sold them off over the last few years. You don't have anyone left.
Yeah, we have sold
now
them
is
off.
Players that will just ring their agent and say, right, get me out of here in the summer rather than stick around and fight.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but I also kind of look at it a little bit differently. And let's look at the picture whole. Every team around us has basically got their first and strongest 11 starting week in, week out. We're the only ones that basically cannot put our starting 11 out, basically. But you talk about leaders and things like that, and I still think Romero's got a big part to play. I still think Van der Ven has, Vicario has, and I'm not saying they're the leaders we need on the pitch, but I just look at the players, and I don't think it's necessarily that they've given up. I think it's they just don't know what to do anymore. That it's been beaten out of them, and we can go back, and if you go back to the summer, everybody was telling us, you know, that these players didn't want Ange to go. We sacked Ange, and the players came out, they supported him. We took on Frank. none of these players believed in Frank, I don't think, from the day one. And that was a mistake made by the board. It doesn't matter what we want to say. This club has been going downhill from the very beginning of this season. Going to last season, these are the same players. They get booed week in, week out, whether that's because they're not good enough, whether it's because they're just have no confidence, whatever it is, there's something fundamentally wrong with the attitude of the club. And then you go and bring in Tudor. We're in a state where we needed a miracle because the board once again fucked up and they left it far too long before they did anything. We were basically a relegated club when they brought in a manager that's, we looked for a new manager bounce. It was far too late. Should have been done 3, 4, 5 games earlier to give us a chance. It should have been the right manager, not Tudor. And I don't blame Tudor because, if he's offered the job, he's going to accept it. Why not? But I look at the players and I know I get criticised for it week in, week out. And I just think we just need a win. We just need a win. And that will bring a little bit of confidence. These players have absolutely no confidence. And it's all right saying, there isn't a leader in the squad. We've said that for seasons and seasons now. It's not something that's just suddenly happened now that we haven't got a leader. The team has had no leaders in the squad. Harry Kane, yeah, he was a world-class striker, but he wasn't necessarily a leader. Sonny, whether you want to call him world-class or not, he wasn't a leader. He maybe led by example, but he wasn't that type of player that within the squad would go around and pick people off the ground and tell them to come on. And
but wasn't their leadership by example kind of part of the reason that we could lift ourselves? Because like Harry Kane, when the times were tough, he would pull a goal out of nowhere, or Sonny the same, pull a goal out of nowhere. Maybe they weren't screaming, maybe they weren't Roy Keane screaming or shouting, but they would kind of do something against all odds that would then lift the spirit of the players.
No, I'm sorry, Jack, but how many times did we sit here or fan groups and that say Harry Kane didn't turn up in the big games? And I'm not criticizing Harry Kane before you come back at me, but the players haven't done it when it's been absolutely critical of them. The only player that I think
that's a different conversation, though, Sarah.
Well, I know it is, but
the big not turning up in the big games. I think it's fair to question: did we have the quality in the big games to really sort of push on and win them sort of games, like in general against the teams that we've coming up against? But the reality is, a lot of their performances, the likes of Kane and Son, they dragged us to that level. Now, did we have the quality to sort of push beyond that? That's where the debate comes in. But they did show leadership on the pitch in that regard. They did bail us out a lot of the times, when we were in trouble and stuff like that. And to that point, like, who do you look at that can do that for us right now? Who's done it all season long?
Yeah,
you don't have that. And I do get what you're saying in terms of like, we haven't had that real vocal presence, which to a certain extent, I do agree with you. But like, there are different ways of showing leadership. And right now we have none. Absolutely zero. We don't even have that player leading by example. And most people would tolerate that right now.
We have a couple of players that could be that, but they're too young still. Archie Gray, he's trying his hardest. You can't say Archie Gray isn't trying, but the players around him probably don't have the respect for him yet, for him to be able to stand there and give it. Vicario,
that's a problem, though, isn't it? Right? The younger
Vicario
players,
should be one of the players. But the problem with Vicario is he blames everybody for his own mistakes, and nobody's going to have any faith in him. Romero, look, I still think Romero is the one that needs to do it. The problem is, we've had him out for 4 games. Now he's out again for this concussion thing. And I don't know, the club just doesn't seem to be able to catch a break. And, you think all of a sudden Van der Ven could be back and Romero and, we might have a decent back 4. And then it's obliterated again. But I just look at the players. And you kind of see it when, you know, they go into the huddle and they look quite confident, and then all of a sudden something just clicks and something goes wrong, and that's it. You can see it drain out of them again on the pitch. And it's the same with the fans in the stands. You know, the fans have probably been brilliant over the last few games. You know, they've tried to lift the team, but you just see it. It's draining watching them, because you see the moment it all drains out of them. And I think, you know, where we say the players have given up, I just don't think it's a case of they've given up. I don't think they've got the faith in the manager, the system, that you know, they don't believe in what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And you know, I mean, I don't know who the answer is. I mean, I'm don't think it's Redknapp necessarily. I think Redknapp could maybe come in as some sort of help and just put his arm around them, maybe, you know, and talk to them on an individual basis. But he's not. I don't think he'll work as a manager. Robbie Keane's not going to come, because why should he? I mean, people are talking about De Zerbi. He's not the answer. And unless they give him it permanently, he's not going to come in. I think he's already turned us down yet again anyway, because he doesn't want to work for the board, because he knows how shit the board is. And the problem is far bigger than the players just giving up. It's far bigger than that. And
yeah, 100%.
The whole club needs a full reset. Now, I'm not saying that needs to be relegation, because it wouldn't surprise me if we got relegated that we do a Leeds and it just gets worse and worse and worse. You know, people joke that we might win a trophy next year if we're relegated. I won't be surprised if we don't even get into
that's
top eight. Yeah. I just think it's the system. You know, we've seen that a back three isn't working. The midfield is overrun.
Yeah,
we need to go back to a back four. And you know, I know it's stupid, because all season fans have been crying out for a back three. We've gone to a back three. It doesn't work. And to me, we've just got to get back to absolute basics, simplicity. Yeah. You know, the simplest form of football, because if we don't, we will not have a chance. But I just don't think the manager was, you know, I said it when we still had Frank here. I said, we need to get rid of Thomas Frank, but the board have to get it right. And they didn't. Yeah. They did not get it right. And I you know, we could sit here and say we need to get rid of Igor Tudor, but the board will not get it right again. They will fuck it up yet again. They could not make a decision if their lives depended on it.
Well, what concerns me is they're still leaving it in Johan Lang and Vinay's hands. They've got it wrong twice already, let alone transfer windows and stuff. You know, like, how are they not, like, taking, like, if I'm owner of a business, right, and I've put decisions in people's hands and they've let me down a couple of times, you know, up until the end of the season, if we go down, it's going to be based off my decision. Yeah. Not people that have already shown incompetence. So this is where I get annoyed with the Lewis family. But because they're so wet behind the ears in terms of actually running a football club, making, you know, swift, you know, precise decisions that need to be made at a football club, they're incapable, which is absolutely huge concern, and which wouldn't surprise me to see Tudor sort of continue on. But I think when you look at the stats, you know, he's lost all 4 of his game in charge. No previous Spurs manager in their history has got off to a worse start than Tudor. We've conceded 14 goals in our 4 matches. You know, his choice to maybe start Kinski away at Atletico Madrid over Vicario was a bit bizarre. I think timing in football is everything. If you're going to do that, you put him in an environment where he has the best opportunity to shine, and that's in front of your own fans, not away in what is already a difficult European away place to go, and most people struggle, you know, in general and stuff like that. And but to your point, has he come in and tried to do anything different on the football pitch? Yeah, he's got them maybe trying to press a bit more, but outside of that, nothing has changed in terms of, or, you know, what they're being asked to do, the formation, the style of play. Absolutely nothing has changed. And that's where I think it's a fair question. Can you let this continue after today?
Dave, I'm going to pull you up on that. And it's not often that I do try and pull you up, but
yeah, work with
it. We say these owners have got no knowledge of running a foot. They've been here for 24 years.
Their daddy
24
made all
years.
the decisions, though.
No,
Their daddy
no.
made all the decisions.
Yeah, but maybe daddy did, but they still grew up. I mean, they're not kids.
Yeah,
these
but I get what you're
Vivian is
saying, right?
not
But
a
there's a
young
difference.
girl.
I
She
get what
is-
you're saying,
yeah,
but there's a
Dave,
difference.
no,
No,
enough
one
of
second.
the excuses. Enough
No,
of
I'm
the
not making
excuses.
excuses, but there's a
I
difference.
know you're not,
There's a
but
difference growing up in and around the football club and the difference in actually being in the position and having to make the decisions. There's a massive difference in that. And their daddy could make all decisions. They could hide behind Levy and they could walk around being the nice guys, meeting and greeting, smiling, talking to people, giving their opinion. But now they're actually in the position of making the decisions. They removed Daniel Levy so they could put themselves in that position. They've given it a shot. And look how far we've fallen, which shows they are not capable of running this football club.
Yeah, but Dave, and I get where you're coming from, but they've grown up seeing the mistakes after mistake after mistake from how they've run this football club, whether it's the father, whether it's that. You cannot tell me that they don't know right from wrong within the footballing world. And
I know how to do it wrong.
yeah, well, they do know how to do it wrong. But it doesn't take a genius to look at what they're doing with the people they've got in charge and say, oh, yeah, we'll give you another chance. If these are money people, they know how to make decisions. And I'm sorry, but it doesn't compute the fact that these people, yes, they may not be footballing people, but they've been in and around the footballing world all their lives, basically. You know, I don't know how old Vivian is, but she's certainly not a 20-year-old. She certainly wasn't a little tiny kid when her father took over the club. Yeah, exactly. So,
if money is their goal, what they can do, the game they're playing right now, they're going to risk losing everything they've built up to have that money. They're going to lose a fortune. So even that's not scaring them into doing the right thing by hanging on to Lange and Vinay and things like that.
Oh, exactly. And you know, it's just baffling that we keep saying all these. And, you know, I get the argument against it, but when we sit here and say they're not footballing people, 24 years these people have been around a football club, and if you haven't learned by your mistakes in those 24 years, because it hasn't been glory days, it's been an absolute shit show for 24 years, basically. If you haven't learned what you've been doing wrong after 24 years, then you're never, ever going to learn. And
I don't think they're never going to learn.
Yeah, and to give them another excuse as to, well, they're not footballing people, no, it doesn't bite anymore. For Vinay and for Lange to still be running the footballing side of this club is absolutely criminal. It's criminal to the point of it didn't need a magician to see in January. We were desperate for players, desperate. Whether they were loan players, whether they were permanent players, it doesn't matter. There might not have been world-class players out there, and I'm sorry, even if the number one targets are out there, you get somebody in to help strengthen that squad. That's all you needed to do. Strengthen the squad. We are down to the bones, and you know, it just. I'm sorry, but the excuses have got to stop for the owners. They have.
I'm not making an excuse.
I don't think people are making excuses.
I know you're not, but you know, every little time that we sit here and say, oh, well, you know, this needs to be done, that needs to be, it's another excuse. We all do it. It's another excuse. And I am not one for going out there and, you know, all the people boycotting and things like that. I mean, I don't know the answers anymore. I really don't. But it's got to be a point where, you know, change for Tottenham last year was, oh, we wanted Daniel Levy out and we wanted Ange out. No, they were the wrong people. You needed the people at the top out. And I know we can't force them out as fans, but until they go, this club will not change. It will not change.
Agreed. Well, look, we'll keep it moving. I do get what you're saying, Sarah. I'm not making an excuse. I just, you know, I just worry that, you know, the reason why they're not making decisions and leaving it in your hand, Lang and Vinay's hands, is because they don't know what is the right decision or what is the wrong decision. It's different being in and around it and not actually having to make decisions, and then all of a sudden being put in the position where you have to make decisions. And I think that's where they're probably struggling, to be brutally honest with you. But look, let's keep it moving. I mean,
can I just have a quick thing, Dave? Just a quick.
Yeah, of course, man.
See, like that, they've had Levy there as the hand puppet, right? And he ingrained himself in every aspect of that club, from running what toilet roll we have to what tea and sugar sachets, you know. And he knew if they try and get rid of him, all right, they ain't got a clue, because I'm not saying he's hidden it all from them, but he's took all that flack and all that crap along the way for his own benefit, to keep him in his job and do that. And then when they walk away, he took all that flack, and then now he can sit back and go, well, you know, there's an ego part to that too, but they allowed that to happen. And why he was making money and why they went from 80 million to 4 billion, you know, they was happy to have him in charge. Now all of a sudden they go, oh, there's a few wrongdoings. Let's get him out. We can do this. If he can do it on his own, 10 of us can do it. And they've realised very quickly how much of a hand he had in all of that club. And now they're employing people left, right and centre who don't know what they're doing to try and come in and steady this shit. And it is just sinking very, very fast. And they cannot get a grip of it, and they cannot pull it back. Not this season.
Yeah.
Rose was there long before Levy went, and so was Vinay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is them been doing it, and they've just used him as a front man, so they're all right up there. And then now they've got to the point where they've thrown him out, and they've realised what he's actually done. I'm not defending him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is the dynamics of the situation. They're happy to sit behind him, let him leave you out, and his wife tapping him on the knee. It's all right, Dave, you know, Daniel, and all this, you know, let him at least sit there and take it while he's made them all this money. Now they feel they can take over. They realise they can't do what he did, and he done a bad job, but they still can't even do his bad job with 10 of them. So
yeah,
it's a part we don't like to talk about, and it feels like you're praising Levy. It's not. It's just an actual dynamic of what happened. And they used him as a puppet. He was happy to take it for £5 million a year. And then now he's sitting back probably laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's also using Harry Redknapp to try and maybe have another coup d'etat and take the losing on the reinstate.
I'd have brought you back, Harry. I'd have done it.
Oh, mad. Absolutely mad. Faz Radfar says, big up my favourite channel. He also says, what is the short-term fix if problem is players? Well, I think this is why we're in a huge predicament. It's not like we can bring players back that have been out on loan. We missed that boat in January, which is a crime, to be honest. If you can't bring the players in January, you bring out the players you've loaned out to get first-team experience, just in case situations like this come around, and we haven't used that opportunity. Look, to be honest with you, you just need someone within that playing squad to step up and try and pull people along with them, or you know, start holding the players that aren't up for the fight accountable, or go and speak to the manager and tell them, look, bring in some youngsters. We'll cope with these youngsters. Get rid of these guys that don't want to play. Put it in your own hands. But that's where we're at right now. Look, the owners, I think, could they come in and offer massive incentives to these players to try and, in terms of monetary value, so that they, you know, in terms of trying to keep it up, they could try and do something like that. You know, it might incentivize them a little bit, even if it means a lot of them will bounced out in the summer. Like, realistically, the only thing we can do is just get to the summer and get rid of the players that don't want to be here, to be quite frank. You know, the players that don't want to pull their weight. But right now, it's either throw them an incentive in terms of monetary value, a massive piss up in Vegas at the end of the season. I know a lot of modern day footballers love that sort of shit. I think that's the only thing that we have right now, to be brutally honest with you, in that regard.
I don't think that would work, Dave, because the players aren't skin, and look, it's a confidence thing, and throwing money at them. You know, I mean, you could say to them, "Oh, we'll give you 10 million."
We don't bring in a manager, and we just bring in a motivator. Is that what we're saying? I get it may not work, but like, we're talking about like what options might be available, and I think that's one of the only options we have.
Well, let's put it this way, Dave. If you said to the players, right, we're going to give you 2, 3, 5, 10 million pound if you suddenly improve your performance, that to me would be worse if that got out and all of a sudden these players started playing. I would fucking shoot the lot of them.
100%. But if it keeps you up, then you get rid of them in the summer.
That's where we're at, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's where we're
Personally,
at right now.
I think the confidence is that shot. I don't even think money would help them.
Yeah. Well, look, it might not. It might not. But I think it's one of the only things we have left, to be brutally honest. But do I trust Lewis family, who are Enoch, Tavistock, whatever you want to call them, to put up a prize pool like that? And I don't. You know, we all know that they're here about profits and money and stuff like that. I really don't, to be brutally honest with you. They might actually, ask for an investor to come in and put it up or something like that. We'll get something ridiculous. Faz Radfar, but good to see you in the house, my man. J-Mac says, no point in me going through the 90 minutes. Just punch me in the belly and kick me in the nuts and be done with it. I mean, I think there's a few like that today. Future's bright. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. And he's saying hello to everybody. Hopefully you're keeping well. And we have this super chat from Bertie. And then we are going to get on to talking about the team news that Tudor spoke about in the pre-match press conference and get on and talking about a couple of players. Bertie, 21 Abel says, I applaud you fellas for managing to talk about this game and current situation. We are in a very precarious position, but we could manage to stay in the league, perhaps with Ange season 3. I've seen this creeping up a lot, Ange still, I think, has some sort of affiliation, whether we like it or not. He likes to still talk about us and pop up when, Tottenham are the centre of discussion. And I see some fans maybe saying, look, would you maybe bring him back in? And will that maybe, because the players did like him, and will they maybe get up and fight for him and stuff like that? To be honest with you, that's never going to happen. There's no way the club are going to sack him after winning the Europa League. He's putting out a statement going, well, the reason why we sacked him is because we believe we're good enough to challenge across all 4 fronts, and that's why we're bringing in the next guy, and then revert back to the guy before the season has ended to save your bacon in the Premier League, even though some would already argue, the decline in the league started with him. So, to be honest with you, it's just never, ever going to happen. In football, people do not put their egos aside like that and go, look, let's do this for the one common cause. You get to restore your reputation. We get to stay up. That is never, ever, ever going to happen at this level. People think, but it's, people just put their egos aside. It doesn't happen at this level. When you're talking about people that are at the top of their game in terms of, billionaires, then underneath that you've got the best in the business, usually put in them positions below them, and you've got players with massive egos. No one is going to put that aside. You're just in a room full of egotistical people, and it's never going to happen. It is very, very rare.
Half a season might be different, but this to come in these last couple of games and save us, never in a million years.
Look,
is he coming back?
It's idiots like me who didn't want to see Ange sacked. I was quite happy to give him a 3rd season. But the idiots have really taken over the asylum now if you think Ange is going to come back and save us. Because if you ever could see the wrong manager coming in to save a club that has absolutely no confidence, and I know he was a brilliant manager and blah, 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 but bringing Ange back now, even I'm not going to call for that one.
He would look, if anything, this is pretty depressing to say, but in his own best interest, it would be to not take the club right now in its position, because then he looks good for the fact that the club ended up getting relegated and having even worse form than he did after he left. I actually would say, though, I do appreciate that they had him on TNT Sports and had that interview with him after the Atletico game, because as much as they can talk to the Jamie O'Hara's or the Tim Sherwoods or the Harry Redknapps of the world, they're from an older era of Spurs players, whereas Ange actually knows these players. Like, he has worked with them. So it is interesting to hear what he has to say, whether you agree with what he has to say or not. He has the most recent experience with this squad and these guys, so he does truly know them. And it is actually really worthwhile, I think, to listen to what he has to say about the current situation. Like I said, whether you agree with his take or not, when you hear like Harry talk about the squad, when you hear Sherwood talk about the squad, when you hear the O'Haras talk about the squad, they come from such a different era of Tottenham Hotspur and such different mentalities and players and squads that like they come at it from maybe a Spurs fan perspective, but they're not, like, in my opinion, as knowledgeable about maybe the current situation as Ange is.
I think the way Ange sort of sees it is, that this squad, judging by what he's been saying recently, that this squad doesn't cope with pressure well. You know, that's where a lot of the mistakes are happening. He even attributed some of the slips the other night to players being nervous on their knees and trembling knees and stuff like that. One thing he did with this squad is he did take all the blame. He took the attention off them. Even heading into Europa League final, it was all about him. There was nothing mentioned about any of the players, which actually gave them the environment to go out there and perform on not being under that immense pressure. Like when we went into the Champions League final under Pochettino, everyone was under immense pressure. Absolutely everybody. Whereas when we went into the Europa League final, all of that went. It was just about whether Ange was going to survive, win or lose. That's what it was all about.
But at the same time, that's give the players excuses to be the way they are because there was no responsibility taken. And it's got them in a mindset of where they are. Although it helped in that certain situation, every week we were losing and we lost a hell of a lot of games last year. They were just being, well, ain't us. The gaffer's taking that one. You know, what he said behind closed doors, we're not privy to. But that trend started last season and it's carried on. And now the excuses for players, it's like, they say like when Man United and Man City are all at the top of their game, winning becomes a habit. And the same thing, losing has become a habit. They've had no accountability because Ange protected them from it. And then this year it's like, well, Frank done this, Frank done that, you know. My boy spoke to Xavi a little while ago. I'm not going to say too much on here because I don't, but all that stuff that come out in that Tell interview about the way Frank treated players, it wasn't a one-off with Tell, put it this way. Xavi said to him at one point, I don't like being on the left. He said, I don't look good there. I can't do nothing now. He just when he dropped in for them 5 games, he said didn't speak to him 4 or 5 days at a time. Like, had nothing. Like the culture in there and what they were doing, and then the excuses, they're all just sidelined. Of course, they're devoid of confidence, and losing is becoming a habit, and it's normalised. And then I say with Ange covering them up, which I thought was quite good of him to take that pressure off the players. But at the same time, now 2 years down the line, it's a problem where they go, well, it's not on us, it's not nothing to do with us, you know.
100%. But that's why I'd always say to people, you know, that's why Levy doesn't get away with any of this. He also made the decision to sack off the Premier League and go for the Europa League. He's just as culpable in terms of allowing this to set in. And I do agree. I sort of argued in the summer, I was like, it's a dangerous precedent to set because, you know, you're going to have that mentality heading into the next season. And it's very hard for someone to stamp out. And although I do agree, it sort of is why, you know, it sort of allowed these players to have this excuse culture. I 100% agree with Martin. But I think with the predicament we are in and where we are right now, you have to assess what is the best way to get something from this squad for the last 9 games. That culture we can reset in the summer by clearing out a lot of the dressing room and bringing new people in. But what is looking at what we've got right now, how do we currently extract the most out of them? And if that's going along with the excuse culture and bringing in a guy that's going to protect them, then albeit, if that's what we have to do, that's where we have to go for these next 9 games, and you clear it out then come the summer. That's where I'm sort of at with it now. Like, don't get me wrong.
What I think would work, and people will think I'm stupid, but you need somebody like Jose Mourinho to come in and bringing in a Harry Redknapp to help him with the motivational side. But, you know, you need that manager that these players are going to look in, that when he walks through the door, it's a double glance to think, is he really here? Has he really come to this club? You know,
100%.
They, you know, Thomas, we won the Europa Cup. You know, and as much as some people want to say, oh, it's not a bit, it was a trophy after however many years, 17 years, whatever. And that was the point, again, to try and kick on. And that was when we needed a manager to come in, like maybe a Conte at that point, where you've already, you know, you've got a little bit of confidence. And for the board to have backed, you know, oh, we're going to back a new manager. This club's going to compete on all 4. That's the time. Now it's a case of you have to bring in somebody that when he walks through that door, that the players look and think, we have a chance now.
That's what I was arguing about in the summer.
We have a chance. Yeah, but now is the point where when we sat here 5-6 games ago and said, if they get rid of Thomas Frank, this board have to make the right decision. They brought in a manager that basically probably only Romero maybe knew, and he, by the sound of it, he didn't want him. And you know, the players looked at him and thought, well, you know, what's happening here? We haven't brought somebody in who suddenly earns our respect and suddenly earns, you know, this is the manager that's going to get us out of this shit. This is the person that's going to do it.
But that's because they left it too long, though, Soren.
They did. But Igor Tudor was the wrong one again.
No, 100%. But like, to get that manager that you're talking about, that decision had to be made in December or January. You know, they left it too late in the season to sort of make that decision, because when with what you've got left, all their managers are in jobs. That's the problem you've got. You're not getting them out. You are left with managers that have come in at other clubs, tried something, and have been sacked. And you're looking. We left ourselves in a position where we could only take gambles. We didn't make that decision early enough to bring in that manager of caliber. If we did, maybe we could have got that guy in, but we left it way too late. Like we were talking about Igor Tudor, Robbie Keane, Harry Redknapp, or Sherwood. They were the options practically on the table at the time. And you know, after Tudor, the only way the club can turn to is someone that has been at the club, that has a good reputation with the fan base. That's the only place they have left to pivot now. And that's where Newcastle pivoted to all them years ago after bringing in Joe Kinnear that time. Didn't work out. They end up bringing in Alan Shearer as manager, and they end up going down anyway because the dressing room was absolutely rotten to the core. They had fractures in the dressing room. People, you know, split in terms of wanting to fight, not wanting to fight. People out in the summer. And we're exactly in that situation right now, and that's concerning.
But Dave, I mean, I'm not saying is the type of manager that I've just described, but if you'd have brought in a Sean Dyche instead of an Igor Tudor,
he wasn't sacked. We brought in Tudor, and then he was sacked after.
Yeah, but you know, I'm saying like a Sean. I mean, you could say Sam Allardyce even, or somebody who's been there. But we're 4 games further down, 5 games further down the road now, and you're at a point now where it's shit or bust. Because if it doesn't happen now, it's not happening. We are down, and there has to be somebody out there that can come into this club that these players just look at and say, this club is, you know, they're actually serious, maybe, that, you know, and I don't know who it maybe is, but there has to be somebody out there that can walk through that door and these players look and think, right, game on now. Game on. You know, you bring in an Igor Tudor and look, he might have done it in other leagues. And, you know, a lot of people said that he's never worked in the Premiership and things like this, but he was just the wrong name. I don't think there was anybody in world football that actually turned around and said, do you know what? Spurs have got it right. They have got it right. You know, nobody said it. So
journalists, pundits, no one.
So the only person that said we'd got it right, by the sounds of it, is Lang and Vinay. Says it all.
Well, where we are now, we're not going to get that guy. We are literally just hoping that someone can come in, fluff the pillows, give them a new haircut, bat them, and tell them they're absolutely fantastic. We've got Faz Radfar. He says, sacking Ange and getting Frank, biggest mistake ever. Do you know what? Look, to be brutally honest with you, you know, look, fair play to Ange for winning the trophy. At that point, when we won the trophy, would I have preferred to give him the start of season 3? I think, I wouldn't have minded. I would have rolled the dice and given it. But the reality is, he sacked himself. He went after the fans. He antagonized the fans. He sacked himself in that regard. You know, and where he was, if we went into season 3, he would have only had a fraction of the fan base going into that with him, on board with him. You know, and there would have been very little leeway from the fans towards him. So I think at that point, they did have to change manager. But where we went wrong is we were off the back of winning Europa League. These players have a hunger for it, have a hunger for winning now. You bring in a manager that's been there, that's done it, that has the know-how, and will guide them along. These players would have listened at that point. We didn't. We brought in a manager that had no history in the Champions League, no history in terms of fighting up around the top of the Premier League, trying to get into Europe. No history of winning trophies. No history of handing a massive fixture list like that. And the first thing he walked in and said is, I guarantee you we're going to lose games. As soon as he opens his mouth and says that, the best players in your dressing room straight away are off board. They don't want to listen to that. They don't care what you have to say moving forward. And the more you hammer home as the season goes on how great the opposition are and how shit you are, the more you lose them, the more they check out, the more they jump off board. When you bring in attacking players like we did or tried to in the summer, they stop listening. And that's why we can barely score goals and stuff like that now, because we allowed it to go on for far too long. We should have brought in a manager at the time of caliber. But look, to be brutally honest, I tried to say that. Nobody wanted to listen to me. Said, Dave, you're just an ansexual. Dave, you just want to be negative for the sake of being negative. Well, where are them people today? I don't see them about the place. I don't. Because I was right at the time. We should have went after someone of more of a reputation, because people got stuck into, I hate Ange even more than he bringing common sense into conversations. Yeah. It was anybody but Ange at the time. We could have brought in fucking Fanny Schmeller from Germany, and they would have sat there, praised it, lauded it, clapped and fucking applauded it. Yeah. That's the reality of it. There was no common sense at the time. And that's even more of an indictment why Ange needed to go. But we fucked ourselves the day we decided to have no ambition in terms of that managerial appointment. And we've been paying the price ever since. Anyway, let's move on from Ange, because he's not here. Neither is Thomas Frank. And I'm sick of
second Ange wasn't the mistake. The appointment was the mistake.
Yeah. But look, let's keep moving forward, because I do want to talk about the team news today. Of course, we are going in here very, very short of players. Jack, we are missing 12 players for today's trip to Anfield. Igor Tudor on the team news ahead of today's game said Cutely Romero and Paulini are out. Mickey van de Ven is out. Basuma has a problem. And Conor Gallagher has a fever, but we hope he will be okay. Something always happens, very rare, and I've never seen this in my career, but we'll fight, not cry. Which is interesting. And he also went on to claim that the crisis is not down to bad luck, stuff like that, maybe alluding to there's deeper issues with inside the club. But look, Jack, with Captain Romero and Vice Captain Mickey van de Ven both out today, who is the one player you would expect to take the armband and actually lead that huddle today?
Well, we've done our best to pretty much injure or get rid of all of the potential leaders, whether you believe we have any or not. Joao Paulinho was one that a lot of people felt like was a leader by example, if not a leader on the pitch. And he's been concussed by Romero and their clash of heads. A lot of people thought Mickey van de Ven was one. He hasn't been the last few weeks, let's be honest. He's now out as well. If I were to look to someone in the squad to be the leader, I mean, it might have to be one of these young players, because I was going to think of someone like Pedro Porro, but to be honest, like Pedro Porro, it does seem like more of a passion merchant type of guy, even though I don't think
I'd be worried he'd lose his head if we gave him the captaincy.
Yeah. I don't mind even the passion merchant players, but it just, to me, sometimes it does seem like in Porro's case, he just comes across as like intense, comes across as a guy that like is really in the moment, but is he really like an exceptional leader? Maybe not. I think probably will have to come from one of these young players that have been, if anything, just been standing up and being counted and have had at least shown the bravery that we've needed in some of these games, whether that be Archie Gray at times. Matisse Tell actually has been one of them as well. I would say for the most part, Pop Matasar could also be one of those guys, even though I don't think he's been playing nearly as well as someone like Matisse Tell or Archie Gray. It's a crazy thing to suggest, but I think we actually might have to look towards one of these younger players to be the leader. But are they going to be able to do it with screaming and shouting? I don't think so. They might have to do it more, but just by leading by example. Yeah, Dave. Sorry.
What about Danzo? He would be a player that actually, whenever he plays, very rarely makes mistakes.
Quite a cool head on him. Quite a cool head.
Cool and collected. Would you give it to a Danzo?
I mean, I would if we actually ended up going down to the championship. I would actually probably would give Danzo like the captaincy, just because he's been around the block. He's been at various stages of his career where he's had to have a setback, then build himself up again. He's a guy that's a bit no nonsense, does the basics very well, seems to have a cool, calm head, like Martin has said there as well. Seems very likable, very nice, but also, he's not a guy that I would want to step across or, maybe do anything, against either. He seems like he fits all the attributes. I just wonder in this moment in time right now, is he really like a vocal figure in the squad? Is he really like a leader inside the dressing room? Because he's only just come into the club. He's really actually only been here literally just a year now at this point. Like maybe if we ended up going down, I actually would consider, and if he were to stick around, I would consider giving him actually the captaincy because of his experience, his age, and the fact that I think he just checks a lot of those boxes. But right here, right now, I don't know if he has that, voice in the dressing room. Maybe he can. Maybe he, if needed to be, maybe he could be that guy. So it's not a bad shout at all. I was more thinking that right now, I don't think we have any real vocal leaders. I think we only have guys who can lead by example, like what we were talking about earlier with Kane and Son and whatnot, guys who did that sort of end of things. And Danzo is one of them. I think Gray has been one of them. And I would say Matisse Tell has probably been one of them. So one of those guys.
Fair. And I just want to ask you a follow-up question, and then I want to come to Martin about Xavi Simons, actually, because I've got some stats that I want to sort of talk about today. But Jack, then it means that centre-back, then, of course, with Romero and Mickey Van der Ven out injured, we are left with Kevin Danzo and Radu Dragusin sort of as your two senior options. But look, Radu Dragusin has made a lot of mistakes since his return. He's cost us a lot of goals. If you're Tudor today, do you just throw them two out there, knowing you don't really have belief in one of them players like a Radu Dragusin? Or do you throw Danzo out there with someone like a Janai Byfield or something like that and look to change it up and do something a bit different?
I think it's been unfortunate because I'm not sure what his injury status is, but apparently Janai Byfield in the worst possible of times has also been injured.
Well, I checked ahead of today's game. The reason why I asked the question is because I didn't see him on any of the injury lists, not even for the under 21s.
Right, but he wasn't in the last few squads or so. And then when I asked about it in the chat, some people seem to think that, it must be down to an injury. So I'm only going off the word.
I know where you're coming from.
You're saying for this game in particular, there's no.
Yeah.
So I would. I mean, I think anyone's better than Dragusin right now, to be honest. If Byfield is available, 100% would play him instead of Dragusin. And then what's strange is, I'm not sure if you have a question for this later, is that Igor Tudor did say that he's been really impressed with Archie Gray in his recent performances and that he feels for him and that he has had to play him in a different position almost nearly every game. There's been no point where he's been able to consecutively play him in the same position.
Twice in the same position, huh?
And he said for this game in the press conference that he's going to have to do it again. And I didn't understand that because I was like, well, technically we have enough players in midfield. We do technically have enough players in the fullback positions. Like, where else would he play then? It would be technically as a center back. So I wonder if he's going to be playing Archie Gray instead of Radu Dragusin or alongside Radu Dragusin as well as Kevin Danzo in a back three. But I know there might be a question on that later. But I would 100%, Dave, if I could, I would do back three of Byfield, Archie Gray, and Kevin Danzo personally. Really, yeah.
I would actually prefer him to get rid of the back three, to be honest with you.
Me too.
See go back four, but I agree with you. If not a Janai Byfield, throw in an Archie Gray in there. He played there better than what Radu Dragusin did under Ange Postecoglou last year when he was paired with him. So I think I'm actually at the point, just being brutally honest with everybody. Anybody but Radu Dragusin is where I'm at right now, to be brutally honest. But Martin, I want to bring you in. I do want to have a talk around Xavi Simons. Of course, I mean, if he does start today, he has been out of lineup the last couple of games. It's a huge game for him. Let's not forget, in the reverse fixture in December, he was sent off after 30 minutes on that tackle for Virgil van Dijk, where he was initially given a yellow, but VAR intervened and upgraded to a red. So there's no doubt about it that he has a point to prove today. And I would hope that if he is selected, he'd be eager to go out and prove that point. But I want to talk about some stats here around Xavi Simons. I mean, the stats are sort of fascinating reading, but completely contradictory. On one hand, he leads the entire Premier League in winning possession in the final third, and he has created 13 chances since match week 24, more than almost any other midfielder in the division. Yet, despite that work rate and creativity, he only has a return of just 1 goal and 4 assists all season, and let's not forget, this is a player that came in on a huge price tag, described as an elite creator, and I think he only has a 42% successful dribble rate as well, which is not great either. But, is this a player that's been let down by his teammates finishing? Or is he a luxury player who lacks the clinical edge we desperately need in a relegation scrap? Because a lot of fans do label Xavi Simons as not good enough. But you would also make the argument, when you look at their history books, Modric, Son, players like that struggled in their first season. But then once they got comfortable after that, they went on to become club legends. Do we maybe need to show a bit more patience around Xavi Simons?
I'm always going to say, yeah, Dave, you know my bias. But looking at the bigger picture of it, look what he's come into, all right, and the expectation that was put on his shoulders.
Yeah.
All right. Now, he's still a young kid. I know he's been around the block and he's been at some, great clubs, but then that also means he's been around some great players and some great systems and some great structures. And then he's getting dropped into Tottenham, who finished 17th. They won the cup, but they finished 17th. They sacked their manager. They bring a new one in. He was promised loads of things that have never come through. So, Romero was, promised these things. All these players were told these things. Now, he's done everything he can. He has bulked up. He comes in on his days off and he does extra. He's got this whole team around him that do with his stats, his development. He's trying his best personally, and people he's paying personally, not from the club, to enhance him and do everything he can. But it's the expectation of the fans, which completely right. He's coming on big money. He's coming on big wages. He's coming with a big reputation from the age of 10. We all expect him to come in and be the finished article straight away. There you go. You're in the Premier League now, boy. Go do it. And yourself, look at Verts and things like that. They come in. They don't hit the ground running. Now, these are world-class players with vast more experience. But you're coming into a shit show of Tottenham, and he is doing these dribbles and running along. And I'm one to think it as well. He holds on to the ball too long. But at the same time, what is he looking up to?
Yeah.
And who has he got to pass to? So now this is not defending him. This is the structure of the team and the cogs in the wheel. And
is he being let down by teammates? And I think there is an element to say he is at times, yes.
There is. But he's confident in his dribbling ability and taking people on. And there is times that he should have passed and he doesn't. And he goes at one too many and loses. But if he does lose, what you'll see in him is he will run back and he will snap back in a tackle and he will try his hardest to get that ball. He's not one of them that goes, oh, fuck it, I've lost it, and just stands there with his hands on his hips. He will go in, and at times it's going to get him yellow cards and it's going to get him sent off. But he's out there battling and he's trying, and but at the same time, if you dropped him in to Arsenal's team this season or Man City team where the structure's more, there's a players running off and they are doing 1-2s and they know where they should be, you'd see a different Xavi Simons, i.e. like when you see him for Holland. He doesn't look that bad. Why? Because there's a structure and a way they play and the players know what they're doing and he knows someone's going to be running there, someone should be there. You've seen it many times where he's got the ball, kicked it out to the left and the players are standing there going, well, did you want me to run for that? And I'll say, I'm not going to defend him. I will be honest with him. I do have my bias. But, there is times he frustrates me. But then you have to look at it and go, well, what is he meant to do? He's asked to do everything. You've seen it when they go forward and the two holding midfielder players stop at the halfway line. Then he goes, right, well, I'm on my own here. Then he's looking at a back four running at him. And he looks out to the left and looks out to the right. There's no one there. Kudus is standing right over there. No one's running into any space. Moani's not making any moves. It's difficult for all of them, and it's easy for them all to blame someone else. Well, you should have been there. You should have done that. But that comes from the management not doing that. Do you know, we've seen all season, there's no patterns of play. There's no partnerships been working. There's no 1-2 give and goes. We all learnt that at under sevens. Trap, pass. Look for a player. These have been doing this since they were 7 and they're now 27 and now all of a sudden they're trapping the ball, looking to pass and there ain't a player to do it to. So, these are professionals and they're doing what they're told. They're not being told to look crap. None of these players individually are as crap as we're seeing collectively. It's impossible.
I think he's still really, really young, so it's probably hard to paint him with this brush I'm about to do. It might be a bit harsh, but I do think right now he strikes me as a bit of a luxury player in that the situation that we're in, we do need someone that can take the game by the scruff of the neck, someone that can sort of just exhibit a bit of quality out of nowhere, like we were talking about earlier, like when you're playing terrible, Bale-esque, I would say maybe a good example of a player that when the team was playing absolutely shit, but then he would just pull something out of the bag. Bruno Fernandes, at Manchester United, so many times, right? Like when they were playing terrible under Ten Hag, under Amorim, he would just pull something out of nothing, right? And I think that's because he's an experienced player. He's done it for many seasons. Like he's a lot older than Xavi Simons. But that's the one thing I think we've been missing from Xavi is I agree. I think you put him in the right system. You put good players around him. He plays really well in the Netherlands team because he has really good technicians, smart players around him. But if you just have the right system around him, he'll play well. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And so when you need someone to be that maverick-like, just Dave, great example of Bale. I think Bruno is a really good example right now. Maybe even a Morgan Gibbs White at like Nottingham Forest, for example. Like guys, when you are playing kind of crap, but then they just will pull something out of the bag out of nothing. Xavi Simons, unfortunately, doesn't seem to be that guy.
It's not just because of his shooting.
I think it's his shooting, or his final pass or his final touch or something. He gets decisions wrong too in the final moment. He gets a lot of decisions wrong as well.
Because I do understand the point you're trying to make in terms of, you look at Bruno Fernandes at United, even when they were down in the doldrums last year, he still pulled up big moments in games to be able to help them. Gareth Bale under AVB, we were atrocious going forward, but that guy could pick up a ball. I've seen him do it countless of times, and the one against West Ham stands out, cut inside, bang one top corner. And I think that's where
Bale went 26 games without winning one. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. And this is where I was going to say, Martin, I wonder, are we just putting, like, we all know we need that individual, but are we putting it on the wrong guy? Should that be, should we be more looking at Amawani?
That's true.
That's true. He got from the age of 10 in the Barcelona academy. Do you honestly think at any stage through them years, he played in a bad team and a structure like this where no one knows what they're doing?
100%.
Let's not forget, we're talking about a young kid here. We're not. Gareth Bale, when he did them sort of things, was not. What's David? 20, 19,
22.
21.
Yeah, I mean, how old was Bale when he was doing these things? He wasn't 19, 20, 21.
Older,
we're talking about players that. The problem with every single one of our players, and I agree totally with what you're saying, that put Xavi in a team with confidence. It's that word again, confidence.
That's all it is.
You could put Gareth Bale in this team, and he would probably look shocking. That's the problem. That it's more than just one player, and I agree with you totally that one player of that type of caliber could probably change. Put a Lamal guy in our team, and Xavi could just do one little turn today or a backflip, and all of a sudden the whole team could come alive. The problem is we are relying on kids again because we haven't got the experience. I mean, we've got the experience in defence. We've got your Mickey van der Ven, your Romero, which I know aren't playing today, but you go forward, and like, I don't know whether Martin or Jack just said, we expected Gallagher to kind of come in and do that sort of thing. But
the solidness to help.
Yeah, but you bring any player into a team that is so far down in the dumps.
They come back.
Take long for they
don't progress the others. They come back to the others.
Exactly. And you look at it, and where we're saying Xavi, he'll try a kick, a pass, but there's nobody there.
Yeah,
because the rest of the
slated for that.
Yeah,
and they say, "What shit ball?" Right,
and that's why I wanted to bring up them stats today, because I thought it was interesting that he's got some of the most highest turnovers, in the Premier League in terms of, some of the most chances created as well, which I find absolutely staggering. Because, I do think long term there is a player there if you put the right players in around them. Like you look at Christian Eriksen at Tottenham. Reason why he was so good at Spurs is because anytime he picked up the ball, he had Harry Kane either running in or dropping short. And if Harry Kane dropped short, Dele Alli ran in behind. You either had your wingers making runs in behind the centre-backs and dropping in behind, or you had your full-backs running in behind, the opposition full-backs, and he could drop it over there. I do feel sorry for Xavi in terms of, and it's one thing I'm screaming every single week. And honestly, if I was on the bench last week, I would have punched Gallagher coming off, after the game, because at one stage, someone picked up the ball. Okay, make a run in behind. And even if you don't get it, you've dragged the player with you. You create space for the player on the ball. People are refusing to do that in this team. None of them are willing to make them runs in behind unless the ball is at the centre-back's feet. And that's where I tend to see them make runs. But I never see them make runs when Xavi has the ball, going forward, or Pedro Porro has the ball going forward, and you're like, okay, make an overlap. No one wants to do it. And I do feel sorry for him in that regard. But to Jack's point, and this is where I do think Jack has a really good point, I think where Xavi could be that guy and has let himself down this season, and I would hope it's something that maybe someone inside the club could feed him this little bit of information, is his shooting. I think if he had better shooting in terms of being able to find the net regularly or test the goalkeeper regularly from outside the box, he could do a Bruno Fernandes. He could do a Gareth Bale.
They were told not to shoot from outside the box. So it's part of the system.
Yeah.
You're taking that part of his game away. Look at the one he scored against England in the Euros or the World Cup or whatever. He's got it in his locker. But when you're told not to do it and you're going to get hooked and he might miss the next 3 games because he's had a shot from outside the box, he's not going to shoot.
Yeah, but he's ballooned shots from inside the 6-yard box. He's ballooned shots from inside the 6-yard box.
No, I know.
He's had a lot of chances to score this
Who's
season.
telling him not to shoot from outside the box?
Well, they were told that under Thomas Frank.
Frank said they don't score from outside the box, but we let in about 20, but never tried it once.
But this is the same argument apparently we had under Ange. He was telling. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand how managers are telling players, if you've got a chance to shoot and score, surely you do it. I mean, it's not working, the fact of trying to play it into the box and have a tap in.
100%.
So surely, I give up with all. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, like you just said, that Thomas Franks told them. I don't know if it's speculation that has been said or whether it's fact.
No, he's deliberately said that.
Well, if you go back and if you look at his history in terms of, and it's well documented at Brentford, he's come out and said this himself. He doesn't encourage shooting from outside the box.
It's not high percentage in good sports.
To me, I mean, if you've got a player that can score from outside the box, then you don't tell them not to do it. I'm not saying Xavi is that.
This is where stats ruin the game. This is a perfect example of overdoing stats. The reason why Frank and some managers encourage their players not to shoot is exactly what Jack said. They see it as a low scoring XG. And this is where sometimes stats is ruining football to a certain degree. That is just pure. Someone that is just pure based on stats and nothing to do with feeling the game, understanding the game, understanding that there's different situations. Sometimes if there is good positions on the edge of the box that present itself, you should encourage players to shoot, because some people do have it in their locker. There's players I played with that couldn't do much else but give them a 30-yarder, and you can guarantee that yoke's finding the top stanchions in the right-hand corner. You know what I mean? And I think that's where stats are ruining the game. And I think that is a perfect example of that, to be fair. Big up, Jose, as well. Good to see you in the build. Hopefully you're keeping well. I haven't spoken to you in a while. To be honest with you, I've just been so preoccupied with Tottenham and outside life, my man. I haven't really had a chance to speak to a lot of people, but hopefully you're keeping well, Jose. Big up, my man. Guys, do we want to talk about Richarlison or Tell next?
If we have time for both of them, maybe Tell.
Go with me,
Can we talk about a different team today?
Well, look, I mean, we could talk about the rugby at the weekend. I don't know, whatever people want to. No, I'm only messing. We'll get on talk about Matisse Tell. Matisse Tell has 3 goals in 22 appearances this season, mostly from the bench. Matisse Tell has made 22 appearances, but 15 of those have come from the bench this season. But Matisse Tell is often a player who does get overlooked, despite looking like our most positive player on the pitch in terms of being a direct threat, taking the game to the opposition. He's only started 7 games all season, but he has a better goal per minute ratio than several of our regular starters. Yet he's consistently the first man to be subbed when he does start or left on the bench to be brought on. We've seen him. Why? I guess is what I'm asking. Why are managers very reluctant to really give this kid his opportunity? Like, you look at Archie Gray. Yeah, he's coming to the fore now, but for large parts of this season, he didn't really turn up. He didn't really play well. Recently, he is dragging this team forward and grabbing it by the scruff of the neck. But Matisse Tell isn't being given the same opportunity. And I just want to maybe ask people why they think he's not being given the same opportunity. Because I think we'll all agree, when you look at recent games, Mawani, despite me thinking there's a player in there, absolutely crock of shit, static. Solanke, being static. Richarlison hasn't really had any great effect, you know, in recent games and stuff like that. But the one kid, anytime he gets the ball, looks like he's going to create something. He's barely been given the opportunity to flourish across the full 90 minutes. So I just want to understand why. I find it strange.
I mean, to be honest, it is mostly a Thomas Frank thing because Igor Tudor has only been in charge for literally a total of 4 games. And the majority of the season has been Frank in charge. And I think it's a Thomas Frank thing because...
Well, even Tudor took him off at halftime the other day with Moani.
I do think 90+% of it is just during Thomas Frank's era, because it started out with the fact that I don't think he was a Thomas Frank signing, because he basically was signed right before, if not like the day of, that Thomas Frank was brought through the club. So clearly wasn't someone that Frank had approved of or anything like that. And then also, as much as I've really become a fan of Tell this season, we all can remember, you know, he was a guy that contributed to us losing that game against PSG in the Super Cup final. So he was not off to a good start. He did 2 things in that game. He was not really holding on to the ball, not progressing the ball like he is right now in recent games, but also he wasn't working hard out of possession either. He was being very, very lazy. But since that game, he has improved on that dramatically. He has worked very hard out of possession. He's been very brave on the ball, getting us up the pitch. But it seemed like he just started off on the back foot and the wrong foot with Thomas Frank, in that he wasn't his signing and he didn't start off the season well. But then also he was competing with Xavi Simons, brand new, big money signing, one of the biggest expenditures we've ever made on a player. Thomas Frank wasn't comfortable playing Xavi Simons through the middle, so he was playing him on the left. There were other guys that were competing for that position, like Brennan Johnson, like Wilson Odobert. It's almost like Matisse Tell from the get-go was never considered as a viable option by Thomas Frank. But I would agree with you, even Igor Tudor, for some reason, has contributed still to, for some reason, this guy just getting thrown under the bus. It just feels like Tell is thrown under the bus when even he puts in a good performance, when he puts in a good game. And I hope it stops now, because he's the only guy that's showing any signs of life, any signs of bravery. And even when we are playing awful, he somehow pulls something out of the bag, whether it's a chance, a shot on goal, something out of nothing, really. And I think he absolutely needs to be playing for the remainder of this season. He's also truly, right now, because of all the injuries, he's the only true winger that we have available right now in this team. Even though he might see himself as more of a hybrid striker, winger option, he is the only guy that is able to hold on to the ball, not lose it, but at the same time, not just pass it sideways and backwards like a Brennan Johnson would, or like other players that we've had played out on the wing in the past right now. So Tell, I've become a big fan of his, but to be honest, Dave, I think it all started with Thomas Frank just obviously not being keen on the guy, and that's why it's been such a tough slog for him.
But Jack, we said with Odobert at the beginning of the season, when he was swapping them and just moving, didn't know what one to play, and we said, give one of them a run of games, give them a bit of confidence, let them build into it. And we just started to see that with Odobert. And I think that was only through the default of Kudus going, but he got that opportunity and he was just starting to find his feet and just starting to get into it a little bit. And then he got his injury. But Tell still hasn't had that run. You know, he's still, when I say, he got in on the Tuesday night at half time, straight off. It does feel like he's a ball guy, but you know, we only get to see the match games. We don't get to see behind the scenes. But I don't know. It's a weird one, isn't it? We have got no one else left, and yet he's still first to be hooked or last to come on.
I'm not even trying to be harsh, by the way, AKEG. I'm just trying to explain what has happened this season and the twisted logic that Thomas Frank has had. I would not have done what Thomas Frank has had. I'm just trying to explain it through 2 ways. I don't think he was a Frank signing, and I don't think Tell got off to a good start at the club this season, which then put him on the back burner in terms of being an option. I'm not trying to be harsh or anything. I'm just trying to explain what has happened this season.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that, Jack. I mean, Tell went through that period where the fans were against him and everything, but you look at Tell and you think the fact that he can't get a game, and yet Moani on the other side is playing every single match possible, and it does not make sense. It really does not make sense, because Moani has done absolutely nothing for this club the entire season.
Has Tell got more goals than Moani, hasn't he?
think he's got one less, but played probably 15, 20 games less as well. But, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
But Moani's goals, was it 2 against Juve and 1 against somebody else, or 2 against
One in the
somebody
North
else?
London Derby.
Yeah, you know, it baffles me. It really does baffle me with this club and the selection choices. And again, we're talking Intel, another young kid.
Xavi.
We got the Dragosin,
No, please no Dragosin.
I bet you that's because it's a back three. Dragosin, Danzo, and Gray is a back three, is it?
Well, let's go through the lineup. I think we've got Vicario in goals. Then you've got Dragosin, Danzo, Porro, and Spence anyway as your defenders. Gray could obviously drop in there to a back three. But just let's go through 2 formations. We'll go through the 3-4-3 he likes to play, and we'll go through maybe a 4-3-3. If it was a 4-3-3, it'd be Vicario in goals, Dragosin and Danzo as your centre back, Porro as your right back, Spence as your left back, Sarr and Gray in midfield with Richarlison.
Sousa's there, Dave. Sousa's left back.
Sorry, left wing back. Oh, okay. So Vicario in goals. So it'd be Dragosin, Danzo, and potentially Pedro Porro, who has played as a right-sided centre-back this season as your back three, with Spence at right wing-back, Sousa at left wing-back, with Sarr and Gray in midfield. And what? Tell him Richarlison up front? No, tell Richarlison and Solanke up front.
Yeah. I think it's a 2-man midfield. And then
3-4-3.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 3-4-3 with Sousa as a left wing-back, one of either Spence or Pedro Porro as the other wing-back on the right side. And then it's going to be probably Sarr and Gray in midfield with Tell and Solanke and Richarlison up top. So there are 3 forwards on the pitch, which is nice to see. And also Moani has been dropped to the bench for Soren's pleasure. And
just for Richarlison as well, you know, he does have 8 goal involvements against Liverpool, more than he does against any other.
That's the one game I'd put him in for is Liverpool.
So you know, you're hoping that's a good omen in that regard today.
So Jack, what was you saying? Your back three then?
So it'd be Dragosin, Danzo, and I think Porro will go in at right-sided centre back. He's played that role once or twice under Tudor already.
Would you not put Spence as the right back and Porro as the wing back?
I would, but sometimes I think Spence gets caught not tracking his man and, you know, runs in behind, which concerns a bit. But either one of them will play the right-sided centre back for sure. The other will play a right wing back. What would you prefer, Marin?
I'd like a 4. I really would like a 4, but I just don't see this geezer playing a 4. I just think there's going to be too much space. Unless he's going for a 5 and locking it off, but then we're going to do nothing going forward. But if he's playing that 3 and trying to push the wing backs on, I do worry that Liverpool's front 3 will get through that quite easily.
You look at the bench here, it doesn't make great reading either. You've only got real 2 players of experience to come on in Moani or Xavi. Then after that, you've got 2 goalkeepers in Kinski and Austin, Olasesi, Roswell, who plays in the back line. Olasesi is a centre midfielder, and then Wilson is the young Scottish striker we signed in January. No Williams Barnett on the bench.
We ain't even filled up the bench, have we? That ain't surely what we got there? 1, 6, is it?
Fuck me, we're so late today. Oh, this is going to be a long, long day, boys. Oh.
2 goalkeepers on the bench.
So we're going to have Sarr and Gray in the middle as our holding 2. And then who's going to be playing in front of him? So
I think you see Tell off one side, Richarlison off the other, with Solanke directly through the middle.
You don't think we've gone to a back 4 with possibly Tell in the number 10 and Spence on the left, like we've seen before? I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, just throwing a couple of different permutations in there.
I know when you look at this guy's history, I think at least 95% of his fixtures overall his managerial career, he's stuck to this back 3 system, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing here today.
I don't think the back 3 works in the Prem though. It really is.
I don't think so either.
Saying that though, is Richie playing left and Tell playing right then?
No.
Solanke down the middle.
Solanke will be through the middle out of them options. He's the least mobile, so he'll definitely.
Richarlison's more likely to play left than right.
To Soren's point, it could be to Soren's point, it could be a version of a 4-4-2 where it's Porro or Spence playing as right back and then right mid. And then you have Danzo Dragic as the center back, Souza as the left back. And then you have Sarr and Gray still in midfield with Tell as more of a left mid. And then you would have Richarlison and Solanke basically pressing together up top. That could be a version of it. It also is not that dissimilar to a back three, really. Like a 4-4-2, the way it would be set up with this selection of players wouldn't be that different, really, to be honest.
Well, all I can say it's going to be a long afternoon.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, long afternoon, this. It's just literally a makeshift team put together. We haven't won at Anfield in 15 years in the Premier League.
And the one thing I will say, and it's probably not really going to help, you've put the players on there that can score if we are going to score. So it could be a very high-scoring game. Could be something like 6-4 or something like that. Don't know which way around, but
you've got a scoring 4.
Forest have just gone one up, everybody.
Oh no!
My God.
Oh, well. Leeds are looking better with 10 men than they did with 11 as well. So, Leeds are through.
Fulham hate us. Drop points to West. They let West Ham pick up points. Now they're letting them Forest pick up points. Fulham hate us, and they beat us as well. Oh my God!
Think that, I mean, going back to the discussion earlier with management and that, when you look at the team and then you look at the bench, you can't blame Tudor for
everything.
For things. When you look at that and you think this isn't a squad that could really ever go to Liverpool and have confidence in winning a game, is it?
No. Look, of course.
You look at the players, and
that team is struck against Dagenham and bloody Redbridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a convincing backline. Midfield of just Gray and Sarr isn't strong enough. And yes, the only strength there is, you look at Richarlison, Solanke, and Tell up front, and you think that's as good as we can kind of get. But it's not a convincingly, when you look at the squad, you don't think we've got a chance.
Yeah. I'm so deflated by Forest just after scoring as well. It just really adds more and more pressure heading into today's game. We've got this from Davy Shire. Good morning, good evening. I'm not sure. I think good evening to you, Davy Shire. I think it is over that side of the world. Member for 28 months. He says, good day, Davy, Jack, Sorry, Martin, and chat.
He's off. Come on, boys.
Nice. We are staying up. So we are. Big up, Davy. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Man, where have you been hiding in this relegation battle? Could have done with some of your positivity fighting alongside Soren here. Soren's been fighting a lonely battle here at the moment.
What's that? Forest goal being disallowed?
Yeah, goal's been disallowed. Offside.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's all right.
Thank you so much,
we get up for that, and say Palace go on to win and blah blah blah. We'd still do. It's in our own hands, and we're not helping ourselves.
We're just clutching at straws for anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
No, we've been relying on the results of other teams instead of ourselves for probably the last 2 months now. It feels like at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you look at the last few weeks where the teams below us and around us have lost, and then we go lose, and you just think, they're the games we should be trying to pull away. Not necessarily when you're going against Liverpool and your teams around you might not win, and you're thinking, great, we've got a chance, because we haven't. That's the worry.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yesterday, West Ham pulling that out against City, that will only give them confidence. They're already sitting there saying they were 15 points behind us. Now they're level on goal difference. Mate, if we're in a battle with them, their tails are up. At some point, we need to string a run of games together to get out of this.
I think it's 17 goal difference or something like that at the minute, or something like that, double figures. But I mean, that could be reduced by half to 15 score worse.
That's why today's game, as much as nobody believes we can get anything at Liverpool. Today's game, if we got something at Liverpool, would be a big boost. Yeah,
going into Forest.
Yeah.
Be a massive boost, absolute massive boost.
Even a point.
Look,
yeah.
Even a point. But look, worst case scenario, don't get hammered today. That goal difference could prove absolutely crucial from the end of the season. So if don't win today, don't fucking get hammered. And to be honest with you, it's a sad situation that we're in right now. We're like, look, even if we can't win, just don't get embarrassed like 4 or 5. You know, goal difference
Quick
matters.
question, Dave.
Absolutely astonishing. Go on.
If we're 4-0 down, and all of a sudden we get 3 or 4 injuries, so we've only got 7 players and we can't continue, we obviously concede the game. But is it only 3-0 loss, or is it still the 4-0?
It'd probably go down as the 3-0 loss, isn't
That's
it?
the biggest silver lining I've ever heard.
Do you know what? That's what we should do. If we have if we're down by 5 or 6, just get what is it?
Like 4
players sent off, and then they'll have to abandon the game, you know, and then we take.
Well, don't get sent off. Just go down with injuries, and you can't play on.
Fucking hell.
We can't afford not to have another player next game.
I can't believe we're at this point. Well, look, let's get your two boys' opinions on the lineup. Let's get your score prediction, and let's bounce out of here and let you get some food and drink into you before the big kickoff. We'll start with you, Martin. What's your thinking on the lineup today, and what's your score predictions, sir?
Well, on the lineup, there's not much he's got to choose from, is it? It's like, you know, it's going into a sweet shop with nothing left, isn't it? And you just got to have what's left on the wall.
It's a miserable place to be that, by the way.
It is. Imagine going into a pick and mix in Woolworths and going in and go, all they got is the melon sugar sweets. You know what I mean?
Stop, fizzy sweets.
Yeah.
I cry.
That's exactly how it is. But I say I don't like the back three, but as I say, his track record is a back three. We've got to put up with that. There's attacking players on the pitch, and let's be fair, if we had the whole full squad, some of them players would be in that squad. So, you know, there's something there. But again, to me, it's just mentality. If they're up for it, if Liverpool come out, start on the front foot, we go 1-0 down in 10 minutes, the edge drop, it's going to be a long day. If we somehow get forward, get a fluky corner in the first 10 minutes, we might get our tails up and you don't know. I don't see us getting ripped apart today. Or I hope, I should say.
But that said the same thing, actually, to me
But,
yesterday.
you know, everyone's saying, people saying 6-1, 6-2. I don't think now. I think, you know, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But I just hope we're on the good side of the low score.
Yeah. Oh, man. I don't even know if I want to do a watch-along, to be brutally honest with you. But look, yeah, at the end of the day, like I keep saying, the Spurs' thing to do is turn up today and shock the world. So let's wait and see what happens. Soren, what's your thoughts on the lineup? Let's get your score prediction.
It picked itself, didn't it? It's kind of like just play any player that's fit enough to play. So I'm not even going to bother with the lineup. Just give you a couple of seconds for everyone to sit down because Tottenham are going today. They're going to Anfield and they're coming away with 3 points, and it's going to be 3-1 to Spurs. I've said it. Move on. We're winning. Come on. We're staying up.
Absolutely love that. And Faz is with you. He says 4-0 Spurs.
Yeah.
Come on.
Never in doubt.
And 2-2 here from Ginola. Absolutely love that. Spurs fan has gone 4-1. No way we are keeping this a low score. Look, I'm not even going to try and predict today's score, to be brutally honest with you. I'm just here hoping that today is the day we could turn a corner in the relegation battle. To Jack's point, to maybe back Soren a little bit here. Liverpool have struggled sometimes against the weaker teams in the league this year. Hopefully today is one of them days.
We are one of them.
But we really are praying to the gods. We really
How many times has a team come to Tottenham that haven't won all season or in the bottom 3 and they've lost? Liverpool will be thinking that now. This team's in the bottom 3, bottom 4. It's a walk in the park.
Yeah,
we're going to Anfield. We are going to win. We're coming away with 3 points, and it's not from the police pulling us up for speeding on the way.
Liverpool's going to turn up.
Hey? No, it's going to be 0-0. It's going to be 0-0 until the 85th minute, and we're scoring 4 in the last 5 minutes. I'm telling you.
I really do hope so. Look, just let's not get embarrassed today. United are up 2-1, by the way. But guys, that's it from us. I want to say a massive thank you to Martin, by the way, who, of course, has been sick the last couple of weeks, but has shown more stomach and more fight than the players. He's come back quicker from injury than the players as well. So, fair play to Martin. Absolutely, really appreciate you coming back and joining us today. Good fun, as always, my man. Also, massive thank you to Soren, who somehow still rocks up with positivity despite being slapped every single week. And to be honest with you, I actually admire it. So fair play to Sarah for giving up his time today.
Yeah.
Dermot was caught up with Mother's Day activities. So, you know, big up Dermot. And Stevie has also been sick today. So Stevie, wish you the best of luck, my man, and best of health. And hopefully we see you back here again soon.
Even the Irish Hotspur had injuries. Do you know what I mean? You've got to go through like...
It just goes to show everyone gets injured, I suppose. You don't have to be an athlete, do you? But what's embarrassing is we probably all have better medical care than what these players do at this point. That's even more embarrassing.
Mine was quite good. Mine was quite good.
I'd say it was. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for all you guys at home as well who, to be honest with you, again, still turn up every single day, you know, with a bit of optimism and still a bit of passion behind the club, which I really do appreciate. You make our lives a little bit easier in that regard. So thank you to all you guys. And also to the people who have gone the extra mile today. We have Mike, we have Faz, we have we have Bertie, Faz again, and also Davy Shire. Really appreciate the support from all you guys. And despite us being in the doldrums, we've also hit a little bit of a milestone here as well. We have finally cracked the 19K subscribers. So here's onwards and upwards to hopefully reaching 20K before the end of the season. That'd be absolutely brilliant. But guys, that's enough from us. We're going to rest our voice for half an hour. We'll be back here for the watch along today. Hopefully, we turn up. As always, come on, you Spurs. Let's go.
Come on, you Spurs.